Okay, so we're back to the desktop again. The user, name of the upper right, the applications used often are listed in the white left. The library files and the OS utilities are listed in the column on the right. You can add to libraries if you want something listed in the libraries. There's quite a bit of flexibility in this start menu when we go there. If we, I guess we might as well just look at the one over here that I've got half the world on. Start, we can take applications, and here's one, is the Camtasia. We can pin it to the taskbar or pin it to the start menu. The taskbar, we can pin it down here at the bottom, or we can pin it to the start menu, which will pin it up here at the top when we look at those things. The search capability is really very good. If I wanted to, for instance, do remote desktop, type remote, give it a few seconds here. My machine is not real fast, obviously. Remote, but I get remote desktop and remote desktops. Sounds like just a matter of an S, but they really are two different applications. So the search, and it keeps going and looking for those things. So the search ability on this thing is really much improved. It doesn't have a run bar per se. This is what they call a combination search run bar down here. So we have those abilities. The auto adjust, restore the language bar, we talked about that. I do have a language on here. Close the language bar. Settings in the down here, the English, which one we're going to use, the language bar. I've got so much open that I have trouble getting into this thing. Properties is where I really wanted to go. The properties of the taskbar, the start menu, the power action, the power button action. What do we want to do? Switch user, log off, or lock. This one's a blank. The toolbars themselves, you can turn them on and off here. You can lock the toolbars. You can put them wherever you want. I don't think this one is locked. Let's see if it is. Yeah, it is. Looks like it's locked, huh? Use small icons. We can use small icons or large icons down here when we apply to change the size. If you want to save space or not save space. So lots of capabilities in here. The start menu, customize. If you go in here, we have a whole lot more. Computer displays a link, connect to, on and on and on and on. We'll go down here to the bottom whether we want to use large icons. Turn on administrative tools or not turn on administrative tools. They're always in the control panel, but they don't necessarily show up in other locations. So it has lots of capabilities. To launch an application, probably all of you have done that, right? Start, go find it, click on it. The search box we just looked at, Windows Explorer or the computer window. Windows Explorer, double-click My Computer. You go through looking for particular files. You can create, right-click the program, the computer or Explorer, and create a shortcut. If you create a shortcut, it will send it to the desktop so that you can create shortcuts on your desktop there. MS Info here is, we might as well take a look at it because they've got a number of things. MS Info and Go. That won't work, will it? I still can't find the MS Info, and we're searching here, and I expect we'll find something eventually. Oh yeah, we have all sorts of them. IST2110Ch3Pt2. If we run that particular one, it should go out and tell us the information about the computer. If it actually will start for me. It looks like it's not going to run. But MSInfo32.exe, it'll pop up at an inconvenient time, you know that. So I just got too many things open here. The arrow snap and the arrow arrow shake, the arrow snap automatically maximizes, and this is one that I can demonstrate. I think as we go up to the top, it'll maximize it. As you drag it down from the top, it brings it back into a smaller one. The arrow shake, you have to actually have arrow on. And when you shake a window, it minimizes everything else. And if everything's minimized, you shake it, it maximizes everything else. The taskbar, the system tray is down here at the bottom, the old system tray. This is called the notification area now. Used to be called system tray. Notification area, the programs, a number of things can happen down here. This little flag, the action center, if there's something wrong, the flag's going to turn red, and you really need to look at what's going on if that happens. I've got a bunch of other stuff running down here that's probably not all that significant. The other one down here would be the networking center, and this one shows all the wireless because these machines have wireless NICs in them. Mouse over the Internet Explorer icon in the taskbar, and then you can open the tabs. We can do that with a number. I don't have any tab. Here we go. Mouse over this PowerPoint, and each of them that's running shows there. We also have the ability, if we right-click on an icon in the taskbar, this one is Microsoft Word, it shows me the last documents that are in history so that you can go directly back to them without having to go look for them. Let's see, the taskbar we looked at, the taskbar and start menu toolbars, lock the taskbar, and I think mine was mine locked? Can't get back to it now, can I? And if you want to plug and unplug, you can unplug a menu. If you got one down here that you don't want anymore, we can unplug them. Choose to personalize it, and these are things that you can do. Right-click any place on the desktop. This is to make it big and make it little and make it go away. I guess if I didn't have so much going here. Right-click on the desktop, personalize. We have some options in here. Change your account picture, change your mouse pointers, your desktop icons. When we do these things are all available here. Down here, I'm on Windows Classic. If I wanted to go Windows 7 Basic, over here would be the arrow themes. And then you can, once you get there, you can pick whatever theme that you want up here. I use the solid colors and turn arrow off because all of that stuff takes some processing power. And I'm not one that's really crazy about having to have those pretty interfaces. Windows Explorer and the computer, actually the more useful tools here we talk about. Explorer, a couple of ways to get there. We can go to the computer, click, and then follow it to wherever we want. Lots of drives on this one. Double click and follow the directory path. Start, select the computer to open Explorer. Down here it talks about the yellow Windows Explorer icon in the taskbar, the little folder down here. You can click on it and it will open whatever was open, and if we don't have any folders open, click on it. It should open the libraries. With my really fast machine here, opens the libraries. We talked about the libraries. If you want to add something, you can either right-click on the library, new library. We have the new library, just new library, and go to its properties. Include a folder. We can go, and in this library, we can now go and pick a folder in the file system. Wherever we want. I can go back. We can get bigger than go to the computer, wherever we want that to be. I guess I could go down here and I could go down here and actually make a library link to each of the class folders if I wanted to, and you can rename it here at the same time. General items, specify what it is, documents, those kinds of things. Include the folder, and then we can, if we want, rename it to my new whatever, my new something another, which is in a library, and that links to wherever else we want to go. If you right-click the icon down here, it lists the recent folders that you've opened so that you can go directly to them. So I could, that IST2110Ch3Pt2 that I didn't believe was the one that was for real a while ago, just right-click on it, it goes right back to it. So the tools that are available that they put into here, it's like most things Microsoft, there's probably at least 3 ways to do anything in Windows. And you're going to find that is pretty consistent when we go through these things. We looked at the appearance and personalization. When you do the virtual machines, you're not going to be able to put the arrow in it because the video card, the virtual video doesn't support the arrow themes. You can on these machines. You should be able to turn arrow on and off. I think it's actually on by default in them. If we go back to this thing, let me see if I can really make a mess here. We'll go into personalize, and then pick the scenes, the Windows 7, architecture, whatever. These are the arrow themes. I'm actually not going to do it because it will slow this machine down to the point that I won't be able to do anything else until I get out of it, and it takes a long time to do that. Being not real wild about all that, I just go to the Windows Classic and then go to a solid desktop color. Gives you back a little bit of your processor.
Is the arrow themes, is that where it takes the multiple windows you have open and you can go between them, or is that like multiple desktops?
No, it's multiple windows. Multiple desktops are a different thing. You can get applications that'll put multiple desktops on these things, and you can put multiple monitors on it as long as you have the
although maybe now Android does with the one full screen, it only gives you sections at a time.
Yeah.
Like you can put items on this one.
No, it doesn't do that. We'll wait for this thing to do its thing here. And we please wait. Now I'm back up here and I'm not responding, so I'm going really fast. But we have the translucence up here. If I open a couple of things, if it'll ever get done doing its thing. I just opened a couple of windows. Let's do one more. And you can pick the amount of translucence that you want on these things. That's adjustable, how much you want to see through it. The arrow shake of this works. When I shake an open window, it minimizes all the other windows. They're all been minimized, and I can move it around. They're not there anymore. If I shake it again correctly, my processing is not processing, but it's supposed to, and that's because of I've got so much going on this machine. It's supposed to open all of those windows that you just minimized. So that's the famous arrow shake. See, it won't even shake right. I want to go back out of arrow, which kind of becomes a two-step process. We'll go back to personalize. And on this one, I'll go to a solid desktop color. So I got the Windows desktops here. You can go through whatever you want. Pictures, top-rated photos, solid colors. And let's pick this dark blue here. Save the changes. But the issue that I get into is I'm still in arrow. You can see by the translucence up here. to get out of that, I need to go down here and pick Windows Basic, and then we're going to go into the please wait. When this one finally gets done, fade to black, fade to white, and maybe eventually we'll get to something done. But maybe not. Here we go. We're still in the please wait area. When Windows gets too busy, it just it slows things down. Everything will get a little bit. You'll notice now that I don't have the translucence here anymore, so I'm out of the arrow capability in this one. Windows Explorer, start, select the computer. See, wait a minute, I went in the wrong direction, didn't I? Files and directories. Drives organized with a single root directory, top down, // directory, // until you get to wherever you want to be. The hard drive divided into partitions. Each volume has its own root directory. So if we have, and this one does have, actually has multiple drives, and on the first drive, I don't think I've got it anymore. Actually, yeah, on the first drive we have multiple partitions. So I have the C partition, and you notice the reason that I'm getting so slow is I have a whole 249 megabytes free on my C drive, which is really going to slow Windows down. When Windows runs out of disk space, it will just quit. That's why it went into that little flashy episode a while ago, I'm sure. And this is the E drive, which is on the same physical drive, different partition. Each of them has its own root on starting point. When we talk about root, that's going to be the starting point of the drive, the top layer of the drive. It also has multiple drives. The big disk down here is a separate physical disk. They gave me lots of storage here with a terabyte of storage, but you notice I'm filling it up really quickly. These are mirrors. What I was going to try to do with that, they started out as mirrors, are not anymore, that I mirrored manually, not with an actual mirror. So we can do those. The file structure that they talk about, // whatever. Directories and subdirectories, the root is always represented by the /. The drive, the C, the letter is simply the drive letter. Each drive will have a different letter. Each drive will have a root, which is represented by a /. When you get to Linux, those of you who may have had Linux is represented by a /. The separators between directories as you go down the structure is a / also. // they got too many files. // and then we have Windows data, program files, // data, /business data, /friends. So the / is the thing that represents the divider in these things. Hard drive can be divided into more than one partition, which means that we can have more than one drive letter on a single physical drive. Each partition is going to be represented by a drive letter. You would do that to separate some activity. Keep in mind that if the physical drive itself fails, all of it fails. One of the advantages, and what a number of people do, and I think I probably would recommend it, actually I would recommend it, and I've done it on a couple of machines, is install the operating system in one partition. If you have different physical drives, that's better, but install the operating system, Windows on like the C drive, and put all your data and programs on the D drive. So if the operating system fails, you still have all your data on a separate partition. If you have to delete that partition, format the partition where the operating system is, you haven't damaged your data at all. A separate physical drive would be even better, because if the drive itself failed, and they do fail, then you'd still have all your data. So when you start doing this and setting these things up, those are kind of little things that you can think about. How do I really want to do this? So we have the root directory, same thing. We're beating root directories to death and navigating the directory structure. You've probably all done that, trying to find your term paper or your I can't find this or I can't find that, whatever. Or if it's like me this morning, you put the document in the wrong folder, and it's like, where is it? The search capability of Windows 7 is really pretty doggone good, as long as you have indexing turned on, which is by default is on. I'm going over these because they're doing something that I think that you probably already know how to do, which is to get around in the GUI portion of the file structure. The command line portion, for those of you who haven't had DOS, you will get in DOS. You'll move around learn those commands, and they're going to have a couple of the command line commands here in just a second. The libraries we looked at a little bit earlier. It's a collection of one or more folders. So what the library is basically a shortcut to get to someplace. You can create a library, you can add folders to it, and when you start it up, when you go to the computer itself, go to my computer here, my old computer here, the libraries are going to show up over here in the left column, as well as the favorites. You can add to favorites here also if you'd like. So you have those there. Quick shortcuts, quick access, whatever you want to call them. You can build them there. I built a couple of them. The one that I really like having over there is Dropbox, because I put a lot of stuff in Dropbox if I want to have it accessible at more than one location. Whatever you would want in there, it's a handy thing to have, and it's just, as we saw earlier, just to right click, putting a new library in, and then telling the system what you want that library to do. Hopefully I'm staying a little bit ahead of these things. The documents, library, you can add the library locations. You can add more than one location there, as you can see. These are all things that you can do. The folder settings controls how the users views files in a folder and what users can do with files and file extensions. This is one I really want to look at. Windows, and there are other ways to get there, but this is the one that I remember going to the folder options. Maybe. If they'll open, we'll go into the folder options. Yay! Folder options, we have a couple of them. General says open each folder in the same window. Remember in Windows, for those of you who remember Windows 3.1, when you open them, you had this cascade of windows open. You can do that if you want. All you have to do is say open each folder in its own window, so you don't just keep opening in the same window. Single click, if you're a real Linux fan and you want to single click instead of double click, pick single click. You can configure it that way. The navigation pane show all folders or automatically expand the current folder. What you want to do in there. The view is one that has, and I can't make this any bigger, I don't think. View has some capabilities, one of which is don't show hidden files, folders, or drives. By the way, that's the default. I've turned off so that it shows me on this machine hidden files and folders. The other thing that's down here that is the default is hide protective operating system files. Probably a good idea. I want to be able to see them, and I want to be able to see them for classes, so I have unchecked that. The default is to not show those. The other one that kind of makes no sense is hide extensions for known file types, which means that if you had an executable, you wouldn't see the extension. If you had a .txt, you wouldn't see the extension.
That don't make sense.
Well, I think it's for, I agree it doesn't make sense, and I think it's for the unwashed or whatever, people that don't want to be bothered with it. What it does do is gives hackers the ability to send you executables that you don't know are executables because you don't see the extension. Can make it look like a .doc. We can make something a file name myfile.doc when it actually was myfile.doc.exe because I didn't see the file extension. It looked like a .doc, but it's really an executable.
That's just the file name.
That's just a file name, yeah. So what you can do, and I've done here, is uncheck the hide extensions. The default is to hide extensions. Turn it off if you want to see it. Turn them back on. Uncheck that one if you want to see those. And I like to see those. They've been there for years. Sharing Experience Wizard. Most of this stuff is kind of default. Show encrypted or compressed NTFS files in a different color. That tells you that there's something different about them. When we do file compression or file encryption, they'll show up as a different color. And those things. Show the drive letters. You cannot show the drive letters and those things. And then in the search, index search includes subfolders, different configurations that you may want to use in this. I think a couple of the big ones there is hidden files you don't see automatically. That's okay because they're hidden files. You can't unhide them. File extensions to me is a big deal. And you can turn those on or off. And the operating system files, if you want to see those are things like the page file. The page file is a swap file that maps to the hard drive, maps part of the hard drive to look like memory. When we do those. Create a file, right-click an unused area. A couple of ways to create a file. First of all, let's make a folder at the command line. MD makes a directory. And I may already have one, MD play. So when I want to go there, directory, there's nothing there. So you can rename a file. If I wanted to create a file in this area through the GUI, I can now go to the G drive, and I made a folder named Play. I can right-click, New, and I have the option of making a number of different things. A folder shortcut, access database, on and on and on and on, open office file, a text document, a journal document, so an office document, a Visio drawing, Microsoft Word document. What that's going to do is just create the format for it. And it's going to be a really clever name, New Microsoft Document. So we can change it, my new docx. This one has the extension, but the .docx would be the extension. If I had the extensions turned off, then I wouldn't see that one. When I open this thing, the docx file association tells it to open that with Microsoft Word. And that's one of the things that the registry does for you is file associations. File association says when you double-click on a document with this extension, use this application to open it with. So we have a new document, but it has no content. We can now put content into that document. When we do those things. You can click an application you want to use in order to create a file, rename the file, keep the file extension, and all that other good stuff. Right-click, and that's create a new file in a folder using the Explorer. So that's that one. Create a folder, right-click, we can create a new folder, or in the command prompt, MD makes a new directory. A new folder. Directories and folders are words that should be used interchangeably. They're the same thing. A folder represents a directory. The nice little pretty folder is just an icon that represents a physical location on the disk. Can create folders with folders. The maximum length of the path in a file name cannot exceed 260 characters. So the total length can't exceed 260. That's a long string if you really think about it. 260 characters is pretty long. And if you really want to see how long it is, I guess you can make one that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and on and on and on and on. Huh? Copy or move or renamed, right-click a file. The difference between a copy and a move is what? Move moves it. The difference is whether the original is in the location. Right-click copy, right-click move. Right-click, cut and copy are down here. Yeah, cut is the move. You can also do Control-C and Control-X at the command prompt. If you wanted to, if we have multiples in here, we can select them. Let's make ourselves some. All sorts of stuff here. New, publisher document, new, PowerPoint. If I click on one, I can do one at a time. If I use the control key, I can select control click. I can select them not adjacent to each other. If I wanted to start at the top and select everything to the bottom, I'd start at the top, hold the shift key, and click the bottom one. It selects all of them at the same time. If I wanted to select all of them with the command prompt, I do a control A. It'll select all of them. Control C to copy, control X to cut when you go through those things. And I guess that's the basic tricks of those, isn't it? If you click on them, right-click on them, we're going to get open, edit, properties, all sorts of things as we work our way through those. So we can copy and move. You can drag. You can move, copy and paste. You can also drag. Let's see. Let's see if I can mess up the drag. I need someplace to drag it to, right? I don't want to drag it to my desktop. So let's pick something. New folder, that's a good place to send it to, huh? If I drag it over with the left click, you notice that it moved it, because I don't have the original. If I want to have the selection, if I right click and drag it, it's going to ask me whether I want to copy or move it or create a shortcut. So I can copy here, I get a copy there and a copy here. What usually happens to me with copy here, copy there, copy everywhere is I wind up with a lot of excess storage. There are softwares that will find duplicates for you, and those are something that all of us probably a little bit, and I'll say me in particular, need to do every once in a while. Select multiple items, the shift control, multiple items or move at the same time, hold down the shift or control keys as you click. The shift key selects adjacent items, the control key selects non-adjacent items, just like we just saw. File or folder attributes make it a read-only file. File or folder attributes, if we go into the properties down here, we can make it read-only or hidden. Read-only means that you can't change it. It is, in fact, read-only. A hidden file is hidden from view. If somebody knows what they're doing, the DOS command attrib attrib will list all of the files with attributes on them. The other thing that you can do in advanced is we can compress it or encrypt it, and you notice that looks like you can do both here. But if you click on one, you notice that you really can't. They've never fixed this. It really looks like they intended to make that a radio button. Radio button, you can only pick one at a time. A checkbox, you can usually pick more than one. This is the only one that I know of in the Microsoft that jumps out at me, that you can do one or the other. You can either encrypt or compress these things. And we had this thing set up. We'll do a new folder here in our thing. Go to Properties, Advanced. That if we compressed it or encrypted it, it would change colors, right? This one is blue. So blue means that it's a compressed folder. If we encrypt our really important publisher file here, it should also get a different color. Encrypt, Let's encrypt the file only since we don't want to be here the rest of the half of the night. Oh yeah, policy prevents me from doing this, and I'm an administrator on this machine, but there's a policy that prevents me from encrypting. You can do this on the virtual machine if you do that, and if you encrypt them, they'll turn green.
So why does it restrict you?
There is a security policy that prohibits us from encrypting stuff on the network. What if the network administrator needs to get to those files? What if you're encrypting something and hiding something illegal? So that's the reason behind that. Yeah, whatever. So we've looked at those, a quick and easy support tools, the system window, system information control panel, action panel. We'll look at those a little bit. The system window, right click on my computer, and it's going to, I jumped too far, going to show us some information. So we can go up here, right click on the computer, go to properties, and we get the system window. The system window gives us some information about the computer. The Windows experience measures a number of factors. Let's see if we can get these here. And what the Windows experience is the lowest one, the slowest one, the one that is the most incompetent, inept, the weakest one. So in this machine, the calculations per second, I get a 4.2 score. Memory operations per second, I get a 4.4. Desktop performance, Windows Aero, I get a 3.4. I told you my Aero was slow. 3D business gaming graphics, a 5.2. Disk transfer rate, a 5.4. So whatever is the lowest score is the one that shows up there. If it's something you're not worried about, you can always look and see what's going on in these things. And this experience goes from a 1.0 to a 7.9. They left some expansion room, or that's the claim anyway. So that is the Windows experience here. And it tells me that I'm an Intel Premium Pentium R4 CPU. It's a 3.06 gigahertz. I've got 4 gig of RAM, 3 gig usable, 32-bit operating system. So I got 4 gig of RAM, but only 3 gig usable. Why is that? It's a 32-bit operating system. 32-bit operating system. They claim 4. It's actually 3 point something that's available that you can actually use. 64-bit operating system. I was looking. I put a link on the Moodle page. You can look at the Windows limitations. But the Windows 7 Enterprise, 512 gig or something like that. Windows Vista, 64-bit, can use 128 gig of memory. And the guy that just took the A+ test today said he did get some questions about that, the maximum amount of RAM that can be used. But 32-bit systems are limited, as you can see here. That this one can't even use all that's installed into it. We have the name and the domain. I can change the product key, but I don't want to because it says it's a genuine Microsoft software. It checks this stuff to see if the key is valid, and it checks it on a fairly frequent basis. Our system in here, instead of typing in the key, the CD key like you do at home, this one, because it's in an enterprise, uses what's called a key management server. We automatically, as soon as it joins the domain, it automatically gets a key from the key server at Virginia Beach, and Virginia Beach pays for all the operating system keys. We have some other things in here: the device manager, remote settings, system protection. Advanced system settings is something that, again, if you're not worried about pretty, if you go into advanced here and then go into performance settings, and I've already changed this one just for best performance. Windows by default has let Windows figure out what's good, and Windows will figure out what's pretty. If you don't want all that, it'll help your performance a little bit. A lot of different things will help the performance of the machine. Since I don't really care about that, that's what I do with mine. The user profiles are here, the startup and recovery, what's going to happen with these things. Computer name, hardware, system protection, remote. A number of the things that are over here are there. System protection and protection settings are off. The system restore points, since this is in an enterprise and theoretically we're not going to have to restore this thing, and you probably want to have these on at home. What the system restore allows you to do is go back to a point in time with the registry settings. Now, if you delete something, it's not going to take you back to that point in time. That's what the recycle bin's all about. But these are for registry settings. If you really mess that up, you can go back to a point in time before that happens. By the way, that's not an entirely bad way to get rid of a virus. Because if you get rid of a virus and it gets put in a registry, if you go back before you had the virus, it doesn't have a path to it just because the file's there. It doesn't do anything. It's got to be run. I read one time, and if you go into, and we'll do some of this stuff, into the Windows Restore environment, one of the things you can do is go back to a restore point. What if you forgot your password? You can boot to that CD and go to the restore point and restore it back before you reset the password. And you have the old password. So, a number of things that you can do with that. The remote says whether we can remote desktop, and a number of these things are grayed out on this machine because it's in the domain, and it means that I can't control it. This one allows desktop connections from computers running any version, so it can be, we can remote desktop to it, we can remote desktop from it. Remote desktop is something that is very handy, especially if you're really lazy like me. No, actually, we went into the NOC, right? And how many machines are over there? And how many keyboards, and how hard is it to do things? It's much easier to manage most things by remote desktop, and that's what I'm doing. Start here. I had to stop to remember the password. Okay, I am now on the server that has all of our virtual machines on it, and I can do everything with it. The thing that I would caution you about, and usually you get a warning, if I were to go to restart or shut down, if you shut down, it shuts down the machine. So if you're at home 27 miles away and you shut down, guess what? You got to drive to 27 miles to push the power button. Be sure, and I always say, log off. Or even better, just go up here and click the X. What that does is disconnect. Two things, log off and disconnect. Disconnect, everything that was running keeps running. Log off, shuts down all the running processes for you. So if I had something running the next time I logged on to it, that's still going to be running.
So if I was at home and my birthday and I hit shut down, it shut it down?
It'll shut it down.
Then I have to log.
No, not your virtual machine, because you can get to it through a web interface.
Okay.
But if it were an actual machine that you had to do that with, absolutely. The machine, the computer that I'm running in the office is a virtual machine. If I shut it down, I'd have to come back and go through the boot process with it. Actually, Chris would probably have to restart it, because if I shut it down, it's someplace else that's not on my machine. I don't have the access to it. He'd have to go to the virtual machine manager and turn it on. So, yeah, be careful if you're doing long distance stuff about shutdown, how you actually get off of these things. The easy way is to just click the X and it just disconnects you. The difference between disconnect and log off is disconnect, all the running applications continue to run. So we do system protection, remote settings, device manager, advanced system settings. are all in here. Windows Update, the Action Center are down here. Those are some of the other things that they're going to talk about, so we might as well just go there now. The Action Center, security on this one. What do we want to do? Windows Update's on. Virus protection's on. This one looks like it's got all of the good stuff on. Network access protection is off. Network access protection is a process that checks before it allows the computer on the network to be sure that Windows Update's running, that it's up to date, that the antivirus software and those sorts of things. It's really something that you would want a stranger's computer to have. You can run it on your own network if you want. We don't, because we figure that these already have a antivirus software, that the Windows is up to date, the firewall and all that stuff's the way that we want it. That's what this one down here is. Windows Update. Some settings are controlled by the administrator, like all of them. I can't actually change that. You'll be able to on the virtual machine. You can see the different capabilities. I can see the update history. And the latest one was 8.16, and that was, 11 days ago, which was probably Patch Tuesday. And Microsoft has really gone, unless it's something really, really, really bad, that they only send updates once a month. But this one is up to date, being updated on a regular basis. Let's get back to here. Performance and Tools, Windows Update, Action Center. We saw all of those things, right? Action Center is down here also, the little flag. If the little flag turns red, the little flag's telling us that we need to check something. You can open the Action Center here. Security and maintenance. I don't have, again, a lot of control because this one's on the network. Troubleshooting and maintenance, no action needed. Check for updates not monitored, and backup, because we don't do backups of the individual machines. We don't want to get the error messages, so you just turn it off and say don't monitor it. If you get messages that you don't want to get, just say go away. You can tell it not to tell you that, not to tell you something that you already know. So that is the system window. The control panel. Control panel itself has lots of capabilities. I like, so we go to the category. This is the default. I don't like the category. I like the icons themselves. You can do large or small. There's no difference in them. It's just the ability to spot them. I grew up looking at this, and that's what I'm kind of accustomed to. The categories tell you what's in which category. When you open up the category, you're going to wind up with the same configuration capability. Administrative tools are in here, a number of things, BitLocker, gadgets, on and on and on and on and on. Pen and touch, the thing is there. The NVIDIA, the video, remote app, desktops, those things. Administrative tools are here. These are things that allow you to actually manage. Yours are not going to be this long. I have the Active Directory tools installed on this machine, so my administrative tools list is much longer than you're going to see on a standard desktop. So the control panel, the Action Center we've looked at, the security. The Action Center, we didn't see this because I didn't have any real issues with it, and the backup was not monitored, so it's not going to show me anything on that. You again, on the virtual machines that you're going to be using, you'll be able to see a number of these things that policies have me locked out on and on. The Action Center, I went too fast, didn't I? Problem reporting the Action Center with a possible solution. You can get answers. Sometimes Microsoft, you can get answers that do the help function in the machine itself. Microsoft help function on Windows is really pretty good if you use the help that's involved in this thing. The user account control box, prevent malicious background. This is the one that said, did you do this, yes or no? If you didn't do it, say no. but it is asking permission. We talked about really early that when we create these things, we create our own initial user that has administrative authority. That doesn't really run as an administrator all the time, which makes things a lot safer. When something happens that requires administrative authority, like a change to the hard drive, you get this pop-up, the user account control that says, do you want to do this? Basically, did you start this thing? And if you say yes, it'll continue. If you say no, it won't. If you're an ordinary user, not that pseudo-administrative user, it's going to ask you to put in the credentials of an administrative user. If you do that, regular user in this room, it's going to ask you for an administrator's credential if you try to install something. So that's one of the protections that is available to us when we do those things. Network and Sharing Center. This is showing the stuff down here which we actually kind of do sort of have on this one, except that we go into the networking we have, because I've created some VPNs and we have wireless connections on this one. This is showing the wireless speaker. And this is a laptop, obviously, because it's plugged in. The Action Center over here, we have the speaker and a whole bunch of other stuff, as you notice, that I have running down here. The little Superman here, Sophos Protection, is the antivirus software that runs on these machines. Sophos is the antivirus that we use. If I wanted to connect, and you've probably done this, but since they show it, connect to one of these things. Skynet's, I think, is the one we can get on right-click connect. I'm not going to do it because Windows has this little tendency that if you have two NICs, sometimes it gets confused and doesn't know which one to use, and then since it doesn't know which one to use, sometimes it winds up using none of them. If you have, and what's really bad is if you have two NICs and one of them just unplugged and the other one's plugged, and it decides that the best way out is the unplugged one, you can have an issue. If you have one unplugged, probably best to disable it rather than give it the option of doing something nasty to you. The network and internet sharing panel, network sharing. This is going to tell us a little bit of a story. If I didn't have access to the internet, I'd have a big red X here. We can connect and disconnect to different things. Connect, disconnect, we get the same list down here that we got when we clicked on the networking and sharing. Change adapter settings, manage wireless networks are here. Change adapter settings takes us into the NICs themselves, and the X here says that they're disconnected. So based on what I said that we should do is, we should disable this thing, right? So I disable the wireless, then it doesn't say, hey, maybe I can get out that way. So we have all of those things in here. The Bluetooth, I'm actually using the Bluetooth. It's not going anyplace, but I'm using it for the headset here. Help and Support Center, the activities have a little bit of the Help and Support Center. Look at that. It does have an awful lot of information in it about what goes on. People, students, sometimes talk about, I don't get to keep this book. Why? How long do you think these books are good for? Maybe 2 years. Yeah. I've got a Cisco class in the days, and we're using the 6th edition of the book. And now I want to keep the 6th edition of the book. And if you go into the online library, the O'Reilly connection, the 7th edition's already there. And there's going to be an 8th edition because they're getting ready to change the test. And probably a 9th edition. They don't always change a whole lot. Virtual online books, e-books, those kinds of things can be helpful to you. And they're a little bit easy to keep up to date. Your best friend is Google. Google. Your best friend Google for finding stuff, troubleshooting stuff. If something happens to you in Windows, I bet you're not first.
Oh, yeah.
If you are, boy, you've just discovered something really magical and mystical and whatever else. Huh? Probably. You may have discovered something. So, we talked a little bit about operating systems. What does the operating system do? Controls, manages the computer. Manages the hardware, manages the application. Manages the hardware, manages the software. When we do these things. Windows 7 to Vista, the arrow interface, you notice that word keeps coming up, you might as well learn the word. Whether you use it or not, learn the word. For if you take this test, I expect they'll ask it. If you take a Microsoft test, I tell you they'll ask it. Because they really like that. 4 ways to launch the application: start menu, search box, Windows Explorer, or a shortcut. Different ways to do those things. The search capability, the Windows 7 search capability is really pretty phenomenal. I think pretty phenomenal. It's really very quick, which is kind of very quick, as long as you have indexing turned on. If you turn off indexing, it gets really slow. Right side of the taskbar is called the notification area. There's also system tray is an old term. System tray goes back to Windows XP and before. The notification area is probably what you're going to hear, and that's in the bottom of what's going on there, where the little red flag will come up if you have something wrong in the Action Center, those kinds of things. Managing files, Windows Explorer we looked at. File extensions, turn them on, turn them off, how to do that, and by default file extensions are turned off. Don't know why. System window, quick overview of the system as well as the ranking, and the ranking is the lowest single entity. It's not an average or anything like that, it's whatever's the lowest. That's the one that you get. Huh? 7.9. 7.9, yeah. Now that changes. Sometimes they change. I think when it started out it was like 7, but they upped it a little bit as the capabilities change, as different things change, and you would think it'd be 0 to 10, but it's 1 to 7.9 right now. Detailed information about the computer control panel, access to lots of different things. That's a good thing to poke around in. The Action Center, the user account control is the thing that protects us from bad guys in a lot of cases. A lot of people have issues with Windows XP by being administrative users and go to some place and you pick up a virus, because you can get a virus sometimes by just visiting a website. If you're an administrative user, then the web browser has the authority to install that virus. And it doesn't have a user account control to pop up and say, did you do this? It'll just install it for you. The safest thing to do in XP, if you know anybody, have anybody running XP, is don't be an administrative user. There's a thing called secondary logon when you right-click and do a run as, and you can run everything as the administrator. So you just be the administrator when you need to be the administrator, and be a regular user every time else. Help and support is there. So I guess that concludes the first chapter. You ready to take a break? I'm sure you are.